welcome back. So today, Kerry, you're doing...
I am doing this stamp which Gail very kindly stamped for me and which is Pink Ink Designs, and I think it is absolutely glorious.
I love the intricacy and the delicateness of this giraffe.
Yeah, I believe they're Pink Ink Designs. And so Gail stamped this for me, and then my idea was, because my Bible is a little bit bigger, I decided what I actually wanted to do was take the image and enlarge it so that I could then trace it into my Bible. And so the idea of this video is to actually show how you can use stamps and increase their size to use them in your Bible in a different way.
It's just so pretty. So you're just using a light box and some either Uniball pens or some Micron pens, but any kind of fine black pen will do here, won't it?
Absolutely. And what I usually do is I usually trace in a 005, and then I do a range from 8 to 1. So that way I just have a basic outline. And then here I use tissues this week instead of kitchen roll and my trusty blue cloth and two various watercolours.
So you've got normal, just a small palette, and you've got the Kerataki watercolours here, which are a higher pigmented watercolour, aren't they?
Yes.
So they give a brighter colour.
Yes.
So you're using the light box underneath to be able to see through and trace the image, but you could equally use the Trace Table app.
Yes, I don't have much luck with that because I obviously use a lot of pressure and it just argues with me.
So it moves sometimes, doesn't it?
No, it just plain argues with me.
So if you don't have a light box, you can try the Trace Table app. I think it's something like 99p, so it's really not that expensive to give it a go and give it a try. But it can help you do some of these tracing kind of things if you need to. So you're using here the Micron pen to colour in the eyes, aren't you?
Yes. So I've actually traced this because it's such a bold image in the Micron 8. So it's quite a thick nib. And then it also meant that I could then go in and, because I've gessoed the page, it meant that I could go quite heavily with a Micron pen without fear of bleeding through to the next page.
But because they're such fine nibs, you have to be careful because sometimes you can break those pens quite easily, can't you?
Yes, so that's why I generally don't get them, because I have a tendency to press so hard I push the nibs in.
Okay.
So I tend to use the Uniball. And then here I'm literally just outlining the giraffe. Now the interesting thing is, because I've got the gesso, I've got that little bit longer. So it clearly looks like a line. But as I add more colour, it gives more of an even keel. So you'll see me going back through and blotting out when I've got too much water on the page. And that just means that you can keep on top of how much you actually have in place. But I quite like, this is a very popular technique with me at the moment, is actually just doing lines coming out from the image in the middle of the page.
But you did this initially in a very, very light blue, and now you're going in with a really, really vibrant blue. So what's the premise behind doing the two stages of the colours?
I sometimes find that the page, by going in with a light colour, I know if I make an error, I'm not ruining the rest of the image. Whereas if I've put a line of water on the page and then add a darker colour on top of it, there's already moisture on the page.
Okay, so you can move it.
Yes, so I'm trying to keep the main image dry and the background. That way I can add more colour to it.
Okay. And here you're using these Tombow pens to do a grey shadow line. Now, this is something I see so often in your work, Kerry.
Yeah.
But it almost gives it like that depth perspective again with that shadow line.
Yeah. So I think it's using the whole premise of light and dark.
So is there an idea of where you do your shadow lines? Because you seem to go around the whole image. Is it anything with a line that you go around?
If I'm wanting it to pop off the page, because what I've been trying to work on technique-wise is actually to try and get an image to feel like it's coming off the page, then if you think about it, if you look in the mirror and work out where the light goes on your face, and then you think about where your image on the page is in relation to a light source, and put the lines in where the shadows would be if you actually just looked at your face in a mirror.
Okay. So, for example, if I stood in the mirror and held a torch under my chin, for example,
Yes.
the light would be coming up, but the shadow lines would be down.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's interesting, but generally, if you think about your chin juts out, so there's always going to be shadow under your chin.
Yeah.
And if you think about your eyebrows, I know protrude's probably the wrong word, but they stand proud of your face, as does your nose. So generally there's a shadow just under your nose. But I actually, if I'm honest, when it comes to shading, I literally go down I do a lot. And then sometimes if it's too much, then I might use paint to actually go over that area to minimize the shadow lines that I've put on. So I'm not a professional, I'm just an enthusiast.
So you're now using a yellowy orange watercolour here to colour in the giraffe. But again, you've done a really, very light base colour and are going over it.
I once read somewhere that if you think about colouring in as 3 stages, so your first stage is incredibly pale, your second stage is about highlighting certain areas, and your third stage is the vibrancy.
But it's just, I am blown away, because I think I look at your images and I always think about how professional they look and how well crafted they look. And I think it's that being able to use colour and use it well. So watercolours for me are a base colour and then I'm done and I move on. Whereas you're a lot of texture, a lot of mixing. So you'll use a similar kind of palette. So here you've got yellows, orange, browns that I can see that you're using. So you're just mixing them all in to really show and emphasise like the cheekbones of the giraffe, the tops of the ears of the giraffe, and those leaves on the neck. You're doing a slightly brownier colour as well, which I think is beautiful.
But the hilarious part of the giraffe, just under its chin, I thought the leaf under its chin, was its double chin? So I actually had to go back with blue and go over the top of it because that was an error. Jade, the only difference is I've spent hundreds more hours watching colouring videos on YouTube.
But it's just so lovely. So what verse have you picked for this picture today?
Psalm 104, verse 24. How many are your works, O Lord? In wisdom you made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. And I'm just reminded when I look at this giraffe of how incredible God's world is. So the ladies who designed this, one of them had gone to South Africa, and this is what inspired this collection of animals from Africa. And for me, it was an absolute treat to use this image.
It's just so striking.
So here I'm just doing an outline to kind of work as a frame. But I remember when I was a kid, we went to a place that took in animals that had been injured, and they had a giraffe, and my mom was wearing this leopard print shirt, and because obviously they were so used to people, there were these 2 huge giraffes, and one of them just fancied my mom, and she chased it all over the game reserve, because wherever my mom walked, if my mom walked, the giraffe went with her. If my mom ran, the giraffe went gloop, gloop behind her, which was so cute. So this just reminds me of that. And there's a real element of fun in these designs, which I really love.
I completely agree. There's playfulness, but not cartoony, which I really, really love. So Kerry's just going to call us into prayer.
Dear Lord, I thank you that we can see your creation in every single animal on this planet, Lord. And I pray that you would be with us, that we might see you as the creator in everything around us, whether it be animal or plant, Lord. And I just thank you that even this week, as I have seen a rainbow, I have been reminded that when Noah came out of the flood, you produced a rainbow to confirm that as a covenant, you would never destroy the earth again, Lord. And I thank you that you care for us, that you care for the creatures on our planet, Lord. And I pray that you will give us wisdom as how we use our resources, Lord, and how they affect our world. And I thank you that you care about the number of hairs on our head, and you tell the creatures of the field that they do not worry about their foods and their wants and their needs, Lord. And so I just pray that you would be with us and remind us to seek your counsel before we fall into anxiety and fear, Lord. For you care for us more than the animals of the field.
Amen. It's really lovely prayer.
Thank you.
So one of the things I love that you do on your pages is you sometimes write prayers next to your images.
I do. And what I've learned to do is actually, I don't do it on all the pages as I'm doing it. So that means that in a year's time, I can come back and add to that page, which I've really enjoyed. But I couldn't resist a prayer on this page because it is so beautiful. And it says, "Dear Lord, countless are the beautiful creatures on this earth. No man could create such beauty." Because, you know, I've tried to do a Bible page and sometimes I found that really difficult to do. And I just think, how on earth, how big must God's imagination be to have come up with the fact that a giraffe has 7 bones in its neck, which is exactly the same number of bones in our neck. And yet he kind of looks like he's got a nice long neck.
So here I can see you've actually cut out the giraffe that you traced from, haven't you?
I have, and I've actually just placed it over the top because I really like those little splotches or, you know... Speckles, good word. And so by putting a mask over the top, you're not getting speckles on your actual image. But just be aware, if you're too close to the edges with the speckles, they can leak underneath. So here, I actually tap the paintbrush on my finger. I tried it with a different technique once and all I did was create absolute disaster. So I find this is a simpler, and there you can see I've taken the mask off and then I get my speckles, which I can then dry.
But you have to be careful again with a heat source because you can blow the speckles because it's just little droplets of watercolour and they have a tendency to move should you get too close with something that's going to blow.
Absolutely, and also if you get too close, they can bubble.
I thought that happened more with acrylic than watercolour, but...
I've had it with both, but you've just got to be aware of that. So it's kind of working out how much is enough.
Well, I just think it just really lifts it because it adds to the background. It gives it...
some texture.
Yeah. Oh, we love a bit of texture. And I think, for me, I get great joy in feeling a page. And I know I talk a lot about wanting to touch people, but actually I sat and looked through Kerry's Bible earlier and just feeling the page and feeling the different textures that comes from using the different mediums, amazing.
And here you can see, again, I've used a stamp on the left-hand side, which I have then blown up so that I could fill the entire page.
And you use that same blue wash around it, and blue's definitely your colour, and you use it so well. Ladies, we hope you've enjoyed this video. We love you.
We miss you and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.
Bye. Have a great week, everyone.